The scent of lilies always made my stomach churn, even before everything changed. They were her favorite, the white ones, the kind that looked like trumpets, heralding some grand arrival. But today, they smelled like a funeral for something that was once beautiful, something I cherished. I heard the lock click, the familiar jangle of keys, and then the slight push as the door swung open. I didn't look up from the worn pages of my book, not yet. I was waiting, listening. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor, a sound that used to make my heart flutter. But today, each tap felt like a hammer blow, echoing the fractured rhythm of my own heart. "Honey, I'm home." Her voice was bright, too bright, and I could hear the fake smile clinging to it. The sound grated like nails on a chalkboard. I kept my eyes glued to the page, pretending to be engrossed in the lives of fictional characters while my own life was unraveling into a tragic farce. "Oh, look," she said, now closer. "I got you some lilies. I know how much you love them." The blatant lie hung in the air, thick and suffocating. That's when I finally looked up. I forced a smile, a small, tight thing that probably looked more like a grimace. "They're beautiful, Sarah," I said, my voice calm. Too calm, I knew, but years of practice hiding my emotions had turned me into an expert. I watched her as she crossed the living room, placing the lilies in the vase on the coffee table. She was dressed in her usual attire, a casual summer dress that always seemed a little too vibrant for the beige walls of our living room. Her blonde hair, which I used to love running my fingers through, was perfectly styled, never a strand out of place. It was the same Sarah, but not the same Sarah I fell in love with. Then she stopped. Her eyes widened, her perfectly painted lips parted slightly, and the color drained from her face, leaving her looking as white as the lilies she brought. Where is it?" she whispered, the bright facade finally crumbling. I knew exactly what she was talking about. The space on the wall above the fireplace, where the enormous framed wedding picture had hung for the last 8 years, was now empty. I had removed it just this morning. The hooks were gone, the wall wiped clean. Not even a trace remained. "What's missing, Sarah?" I asked, my voice still calm, almost detached. I wanted her to say it, to give voice to the guilt she tried so hard to hide. "The picture, the wedding picture. Where is it?" She was pacing now, her heels clicking nervously against the floor, the sound amplified in the sudden silence. I finally closed my book, a thick, heavy biography of Abraham Lincoln, and placed it on the coffee table. She stopped pacing and turned to me, her eyes searching mine. A flicker of panic replaced the fear. "Why?" I leaned back in my chair, finally meeting her gaze. "Because, Sarah," I began, my voice controlled, "a picture is supposed to capture a moment in time. A memory, right? A snapshot of a specific point in a relationship." I paused, letting my words hang in the air. "And that picture, that wedding picture, it's a lie." She recoiled, as if I'd slapped her. "What are you talking about?" Her voice was shaky now, the veneer of calm completely gone. "It's a picture of us on what was supposed to be the best day of our lives," I continued. "A day that was supposed to be the beginning of a lifelong promise. And it doesn't represent who we are anymore, does it?" I paused again, watching the realization slowly dawn on her. "It's just a picture, a reminder of something that no longer exists." I watched her try to piece it together. The confusion slowly gave way to understanding, and for a brief moment I saw a flash of anger quickly suppressed. "You know," I said almost coldly. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. "Yes, Sarah," I continued. "I know." I let the silence hang heavy between us, the unspoken accusations filling the air. "How long?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Long enough." I didn't elaborate. I didn't tell her about the burner phone I found hidden beneath the lining of her purse, or the countless texts and late-night calls that painted a detailed picture of her double life. I didn't tell her how I had meticulously documented each piece of evidence, each betrayal. a heartbreaking task that nearly broke me. Who? Who is he? She asked, her voice trembling. Does it matter? I replied, my tone flat. His name won't change the fact that you betrayed me, Sarah. It won't erase the months of lies and deception. She dropped to the couch, her face buried in her hands. The lilies were forgotten on the table. I don't know what to say, she sobbed, the perfect facade finally shattered. Don't, I said. Don't say anything. For once, just listen. I pulled a small flat box from the side table. It wasn't a jewelry box, like the ones I had given her before. It was a thick cardboard box tied with simple brown string. I placed it on the coffee table in front of her, watching as she slowly looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen, filled with questions, confusion, and a flicker of hope. I watched as she untied the string, her hands shaking. Inside, she found not jewels, but stacks of carefully curated papers. Bank statements, phone records, travel itineraries, and a few pictures printed on glossy paper that I'd secretly snapped. They weren't loving pictures. They captured stolen moments, clandestine meetings, and hushed whispers between her and him. She didn't say a word as she sifted through the evidence. The truth was laid bare before her, and her face paled further as she realized the extent of my knowledge. The hope that had flickered in her eyes was extinguished, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated fear. Everything, I said, my voice low but clear. Everything you did, every lie you told, every secret rendezvous. It's all here, Sarah. Documented. The weight of her betrayal crashed down on her. The sob that escaped her was raw, gut-wrenching. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading, but there was no pity in mine. Only a profound sense of weariness. I made a mistake, she whispered, her voice choked with tears. A mistake? I repeated, dripping with sarcasm. This wasn't a mistake, Sarah. This was a choice. A long, calculated, deliberate choice to break our vows, to destroy our marriage, to destroy me. She didn't respond. She just sat there, defeated, the truth finally visible in her eyes. I'm leaving, I said, standing up. I've already packed a bag. I've filed for divorce. You'll be served within the week, and there's a lawyer's letter among those papers. It explains the details of the prenup we signed on that day, the day that photograph was taken, the day that you're no longer a part of. I walked to the door, not turning back, leaving her there, surrounded by the ruins of her deception and lies. The clicks of her heels on the floor had once filled my heart with joy. Today, they sounded like the death knell of something that was never meant to be. As I stepped outside, I took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, the air felt clean. The weight was finally lifted. The satisfaction wasn't in her pain. It was in my freedom. The memory of her white face, surrounded by those white lies, was a revenge more satisfying than I could have ever imagined. I drove away, leaving her with the quiet hum of her own regrets and the silent whisper of a marriage that was never meant to be. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I was finally free.